Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of World Builders Nexus. Today, we are still in the village of Oxgard, and we are going to be talking about Magistar Soros, as well as what he's bringing to the table, which is Solomism. Solomism is sort of the backbone of this world. It's the idea I had that made me want to, build the entire thing, so I'm really excited to introduce it. But without further ado, let's get started. So, to begin, we're going to be talking about Magistar Soros, and I want to begin with his name, actually. Magistar is a title. It's a self-appointed title. It means that he is a teacher of Solomism. So Solomism is a religion that we are going to be getting into in the second part of this video. But for now, just know that Magistar Soros is a sort of a preacher of sorts. He lives in town and he's teaching the gospel of Solomism. He's from a location called the Gael. The Gael is the southernmost kingdom of the Western kingdoms. And they're known for their trade with the East, as well as their beautiful deserts and rock formations. And while he was living in the Gael, some stuff happened, some backstory stuff that I won't get into in this episode, but he has found his way to Oxgard, where he is currently living out his life. I don't have a whole lot to say about Magistar Soros this episode, but I do have a lot to talk about the concept that he's introducing, is Solomism. So Solomism is the central religion of Western Eratsael. It is the backbone of society. All of the humans worship it just about. A lot of tieflings worship it. A lot of northerners worship it. It is definitely the dominant religion, and it is very, very important to the lore and history of the world. So Solomism is quite a large topic, and it's going to take us definitely a couple weeks to go over all of it. But this week I want to talk about the beliefs. So the beliefs of Solomism center around King Solomon Haster. He was a very influential king of his time about 5,700 years ago. He's the guy that the calendar system is based around. The current year is approximately 5770 ASR, which is after Solomon's reign. So he's very influential and a lot of people know who he is. But the reason King Solomon is notable to Solomists is because they believe that he discovered the mythical center of the world and through that spiritual immortality. And Solomists or Solomites believe that by emulating King Solomon and his habits that you can achieve the same thing, in the modern era. So the first of these traits of King Solomon that Solomites follow is self-betterment. Followers of Solomism believe that self-betterment is one of the paths to spiritual immortality. And this coincides with insight. So self-betterment and insight are what Solomites believe King Solomon, one of the things he was notable for was that he could see into himself and try to get better. And through seeing into oneself and making yourself better, you can achieve spiritual immortality. So I can't talk too much more about the beliefs of Solomism without talking about spiritual immortality. And that's a concept that carried over from a lot of early human religions of Eratsael. And it's sort of reaching this state of living forever immortally as in a spiritual realm, very much like heaven in Christianity. So as far as who King Solomon Haster was, he was a very famous and influential king of his time. He was known for wanting to unify the East and the West, which was a concept a lot of people were interested in, but he was the first king to really double down on it. So King Solomon's dad, King Torin Haster, he's the guy who united the four kingdoms. At that time, there were the four kingdoms of Western Eratsael, and then along the western coast of the Riverlands, what's today known as the Knots, or the Knot Coast, that was Haster territory. But while next video we'll do the full rundown of King Solomon and his entire biography, just for the purposes of this video, I do want to give y'all a brief sort of rundown. So King Solomon in his early life kind of quickly rose to fame throughout the West. At the age of 27, he was accompanying his father during a major battle during the end of the War of the West, where King Torin died and King Solomon had to finish the battle and won the war. So becoming the first king of Western Eratsael, at least to sit on a throne and be the first king during non-wartime. King Solomon immediately looked to the east in an attempt to unify them, and after his rise to power, he started Solomon's first war, which was the war between Western Eratsael and Eastern Eratsael. King Solomon lost the war after only 3 battles and was forced to return home with a crippled fleet. Shortly after, King Solomon waged another war called Solomon's Second War against the demons and devils of Apocrypha. Apocrypha I do not think I've introduced yet, but it's sort of the equivalent of hell in my world. It's led by Asmodeus, and King Solomon lost big time there. No one knows what really happened, but he went with 30,000 and he only returned with about 2,100 of his original men, so it was an absolute slaughtering. And afterwards, King Solomon kind of acted a little crazy and was definitely sort of losing his mind in his old age. At 2 points throughout his rule, he went on expeditions to the north. So during this time, the north wasn't very well explored. The maps we have today were actually started under King Solomon. But during his expeditions north, he discovered the tomb of a man named Yarrow. Yarrow was the central figure of a religion at that time called Yarism. It was a sort of hero-based religion. And Yarrow was discovered to be something called an Altesian, which in Yarism is someone who has found that spiritual immortality that we talked about earlier. However, Solomon's second expedition north is a lot more mysterious because he never returned. And afterwards, his son Abram Haster, his firstborn, took the throne, and his other son Cain, who was the Lord of Falkis, rebelled against his brother, and there was a massive civil war that resulted in the extinction of House Haster. And that's all stuff we'll get in more next week. We'll do the full history on that. But hopefully now you have a good enough idea of what Solomism is and why it's founded. We can now talk about sort of what makes it unique among other religions and what are some unique features of the religion. So first up is the Tome of Solomon. It was written in 2 ASR by Archmagistar Markham Harrell. Earlier we talked about the title Magistar, but Archmagistar is not self-appointed. There are 40 Archmagistars in the Temple of Solomon at any given moment, and they are the most knowledgeable and most devout followers of Solomism in the world. But the Tome of Solomon, written by Markham Harrell, is the sort of central book. It's the Torah, the Bible, the Quran, and it makes a lot of claims about King Solomon's life. Some of them are just, disproven or are hyperbolized or simplified for, ease of understanding. But it is sort of well known that the Tome of Solomon is a fictitious overview of King Solomon's life, but, some people just either don't care or, disbelieve that entirely anyways. There are also the 9 creeds. The 9 creeds are a set of laws given to King Solomon by a mysterious voice in the sky during one of his expeditions north. And the 9 creeds set a lot of precedents for the modern laws of the land, just like in real life, religious law has kind of created what we would consider to be common law. And last but not least is Solomon's Third War. This is actually not touched upon in the Tome of Solomon. It is a concept that developed, within the first couple hundred years of the religion's forming. But Solomon's Third War is sort of the equivalent of like the apocalypse. It's a proverbial war where King Solomon will return from his spiritual immortality to the mortal lands of Eratsael, and he will, lead a war against the east to unite the kingdoms of Eratsael once and for all. But with that, I do hope that you guys feel like you got at least a preliminary understanding of Solomism. This is definitely only part 1. We're going to go into a full history of Solomism. We're going to talk more about the real life of King Solomon, House Haster. There's a lot to talk about with this concept, so, this is definitely not all we are going to get. I really hope that you guys like what y'all see. I hope that Solomism and King Solomon is an interesting topic. It is like I said, the backbone of the world, and so I'm taking it very seriously. I'm taking my time with it. It's very important I get it right, because a lot of what's to come is going to kind of branch off of this. But anyways, yeah, if you like what you see, leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more, and I will see y'all next time.